a lot of knowledge. Instead of coming in cold, you're sitting there and looking at the audience, so to speak.
Yeah.
You have the perspective from both sides.
Do you think there needs to be two clerks? I mean, not two clerks, but yeah, two clerks. I mean, you have the clerk for the council, and then it seems like you have a clerk for the mayor. And I don't know if it's supposed to be like that, but it seems like that's the way it is.
No, the city clerk's other title is clerk of the council. And basically, he does the attendance and the roll call votes. The council secretary takes care of the agenda, getting it published, getting it printed to be sent out to the councilors. The mayor has his own either administrative assistant or secretary, whichever title is being used. But now that things have changed after the last mayor, everything is more, let's say, more friendly, so to speak, on the third floor. There's that animosity is gone between council over there and mayor over there. Everybody seems to be blending together again, like it was with the old city manager.
It's like the way when we wrote the charter, what we were looking at.
Yes.
That's what we figured.
Where everybody is working together for the betterment of the city. There's no that side versus that side.
Now you're, I'm not sure what you call this. You're on the
Administration committee.
Committee.
Chair again.
Now you're the chair.
Yeah.
So
chair.
like each councilor has a certain spot where they're chair of, is that right?
Yeah, you're chairman or chairwoman of one major item, and then you usually have 3 liaison assignments.
Okay.
I'm on Park and Recreation and Personnel, and I switched with Martha Marks. I'm now taking the School Building and Maintenance Committee
Good.
meeting because they meet on a 9 o'clock a.m. on a Friday, and she works full-time, and I'm retired.
Well, that's good.
But
That's real
any
good.
counselor can go to any
Yeah,
of the other board and agency meetings. If
but
they're
you only
available.
have so many councilors that can actually vote on them, different committees, like with administration.
Well, there's usually
you and-
myself and 2 other counselors on administration.
That's the way it is for all
Yeah,
of them?
Yes. There's, Anthony Nolan and Efren Dominguez is also on administration committee, and I'm the chair. Anthony has a chair and 2 other committees, and the same with the rest of the counselors.
Now, when boards and agencies and committees are looking for people to join their group, because some of them have to have a certain amount of people, some of them have to have people that live in the city, some have to be, you can't have more than 4 of one party, and you know, stuff like that. Now, do the people come directly to you if they want to join a committee or an agency?
No, we now have it online on the city's website as to the board and agencies that have openings. They can either download the form and either mail it in or walk it in. They need to turn it into the city clerk's office first, so he can stamp it in, and then from there it goes up to the council secretary.
Yeah, I want to tell everybody, not to interrupt, but if you do go that route, always get copies of everything you have done. But go ahead.
Yeah. And from there, it comes to me as chairman, and then we now have a form letter that we send out. If there is an opening or there is not an opening, depending on what the board and agency that the person listed, we usually keep it for a year or so, in case there are any openings down the line.
So what if somebody doesn't have a computer?
They have the form in the clerk's office,
Okay.
and they can
All right.
fill it out right there. And
Are you getting a lot of people that are stepping forward for these things?
it varies, depending on if there is an issue before the city council. Sometimes you have a spike in applications. Other times you don't. Like we're looking right now for members of, we need to fill 3 positions on the foreign trade zone.
Foreign trade
Foreign
zone?
trade zone.
We have a foreign trade zone?
Yes, yes.
No
In fact,
kidding. What the heck do they do besides what it
Uh,
sounds like?
Well, they receive a very small dollar amount from the federal government pertaining to a trade zone that is basically the state pier and portions of Pfizer's dock or frontage on the Thames River. There's a dollar amount. I can't remember the exact figure. It's not very large. And that goes to the foreign trade zone.
But what do they do?
They could use it for studies if they need any expert testimony. It can be used widely. But they have to go to council before they could spend the money.
Wow, that's a new one on me.
It was created decades ago. I guess it was when Pfizer started to do a lot of importing of chemicals that they created the trade zone.
So
It was
do
also
they go
for-
like and inspect shipments that come
No,
in or
no,
anything like that? Or
No.
it sounds, I don't know.
It's basically to give the shipper a break on what is taxed and what they declare.
Now, do you see, you wouldn't see as far as, or would know as far as how many people apply for certain jobs, right? That wouldn't be in your realm
No,
of-
civil service positions?
Yeah.
No.
'Cause I was
No,
just
that's-
curious if you would know how many minorities have stepped forward to become firemen or policemen.
No, that's not
That's
the
not you. Okay.
domain of the administration committee.
Do you find a lot of minorities applying for the boards and committees? I mean, what's the-
It varies depending on what the interest is. The Police Community Relations, Park and Rec Commission, the
Okay.
recently started Pedestrian Advisory Committee Board.
Now, this is something I want to ask. It's always been on my mind, and I mean, you don't have to ask it if you want. It's a little personal. But when Finenzio came into office, he cleaned house. One of the things he did was he took, I don't want to say he fired you, he didn't fire you, but he changed you and the assistant clerk. He basically asked you to retire.
Yeah.
Now, how did he do that? I mean, did he have the right to make you any kind of offer? I mean, did he have to go through any kind of channels, or what did he? I mean, because I always thought, well, wait a minute, these are 2 people who've been here forever. They know what they're doing. It's crazy to replace them, and you know, if they're going to replace them with younger people, well, to me, that was a lawsuit in itself. I don't know if you ever thought about that, but what did he offer that you would say, all right, I'm out of here?
Well, basically, he probably spent about somewhere from $1.5 million to $2.25 million getting rid of. I use the word rid of.
Yeah, that's a good. That's
all
a good,
of us, the department heads. That includes the captains in the police
Yeah.
department. Personally, I think he did me a favor, because when you work with a professional city manager, and then to see this unprofessional come in and just basically clean house, not going into a lot of details, there were a couple of us, department head wise, who did sit down with an attorney. Basically, he said, yes, you do have a classic age discrimination suit,
oh, wow.
but it's versus what was put on the table and what did you want to leave. So, but it was
All right.
a total waste of money.
Now,
Because over probably, we figured about maybe 160 years of experience went out the door
oh yeah,
in
I
about
mean,
the first 4 months.
in my wildest dreams, I wouldn't have expected anybody to come in and make that radical of a change. I mean, you know, you come in and you take these people that have the experience and the knowledge and you work with them. And then down the road, if you want to replace them, at least you've got something. You know how the game plan is going to work. I don't picture somebody coming in with their own game plan, which I know it happens, and then just saying, hey, this is the way I'm going to do it. Everybody get out.
Yeah, that's just like the newly elected mayor of the city of New York coming in within the first, say, month, getting rid of all his department heads. Well, they're the ones who are running the city of New York.
And then look where it is now, Look where the city is now. It's a mess. So now that you're doing your second term as consular, did you ask yourself, what the hell am I doing?
No.
So you liked the first time around?
The first 2 years were a learning experience also. You see so much sitting there in the clerk's seat next to the council secretary, but you don't know the whole workings of what the 7 people are doing. You have a very, very good idea, but it's what legislation comes before you. And the first 2 years, basically, which was the mayor's third and fourth year, both sides were feeling the mayor out to see which way he was going.
So it wasn't none of this, 4 of the people on the council were puppets for the mayor?
Well, if you look at the last 2 years, there were many votes that myself, Councilor Olson, and Councilor Passero, we were on the short end.
Yeah.
But
although it did seem towards the very end, whether they did it for political reasons or election reasons or what, it seemed like they were starting to question the path that this mayor wanted to do, the old mayor.
Yep.
So I noticed at the swearing in, there had to be, about 800 people, something like that. And I said to myself, I wonder how many of these people are going to show up at council meetings. And you know what? I don't see very many of them.
Well, it's a swearing-in ceremony and going to a council meeting.
To me, it was like being at church. Everybody comes in all decked out with their applause and all this other stuff, and then they leave, and that's the end of it.
Well, you have a lot of friends and relatives. My dad was there, my brother, and then multiply that by 7. So
you had
plus supporters of the mayor, and
I've noticed in the beginning of this second term that the new people, like John Sadai, Don Vendetta, who I have high hopes for, are bringing forth issues that were brought up throughout the last 4 years. It's almost like a repeat, like the Edgerton School thing, community center thing, and some other ones I can't think of off the top of my head. You see, starting out this new council, I don't know if it's too soon yet, a lot of repeat stuff.
Well, some of the issues are back on the table. The repurchasing of Edgerton School, and possibly starting up the community center again, because that basically took a back seat during the campaign. And at the end of the Mayor Finizio's term, things that you can't take care of quickly will always keep reappearing.
Well, yeah. Especially if it's something that someone feels strongly about, they'll carry it over. I understand that. Now, our new mayor, and I'm not asking you to speak for him, has run into 2, it seems, major issues. One's with the firemen, the 3 firemen that thought they had a job and then they didn't have a job. What came across to you about that whole situation? What was the explanation for that? And were you comfortable with it?
Well, what I know about it, I thought it was rushed at the very end of Finizio's term. But the reason the job offers were pulled back is the city's insurance company, which is Kerma. They basically said we could end up being sued by all 23 other people who were on that list. So,
Why?
because the way the previous mayor picked and chose who the candidates were. There were 3 firefighters who did have certifications and 3 that would be going to the fire academy.
So the first 3 that got picked, because I hear about this top 3 way of doing things, they were qualified. Did they still also have to go to the school?
No,
All
because
right,
they have
so,
all
and then
their
the next
certification.
3 would have had to go through the school,
Right.
which would have cost the city what kind of money?
I have no idea.
No.
In fact, the dollar amount never was out to council as to how much each man would cost to go to fire school.
Now, who picked the second three men?
The mayor along with the personnel coordinator.
Okay. Now, I've been hearing that Mike signed off on this. Why did Mike have to sign anything? He wasn't mayor yet.
I don't know the reason for that,
Okay.
nor have we been privy to the document itself. So I don't know why.
Do you think we should stick with the way we've been doing it, where, you know, you pick the 3 top candidates? Or the 3 that are most qualified, let's put it that way.
It should always be the 3 most qualified, and then you
Well,
pick
however
from,
number.
yeah, pick from there.
Okay.
But when you're dealing with like police officers, firefighters, especially now that both departments are in the CMRF retirement plan, where you can get an individual who is certified when there is an opening, you would want to hire that person because you're not spending as much money sending a person to the police academy or the firefighter academy, especially when with the police department you need to fill those ranks. You want that officer that maybe has 5 years from another department that also is in that same pension plan, so they can just move everything, including their experience. Especially in a police officer, you're not sending him for those months at the academy.
So the police officer that's that qualified does not go to the school?
No, you would, if he's certified as a police officer in the city or town that he's coming from, basically New London takes him
about
through the OJT process and explains what, every police department does something different.
Yeah.
So, but it's less of a training
Break them
experience.
into the way
Yeah.
we do things.
Right.
Now, what about if the police officers is qualified, say they got 10 years of being on a police force from another state, and they want to come here and live here and be a police officer, do they have to go to the school?
That I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It would probably between, if Connecticut recognizes their qualifications from another state.
So how much is the state involved with who we hire as a police officer?
Very little. Because we would hire, even if we take a person off the street, we're still sending them to the academy. And naturally, you've got to pass the academy before you can start. It's just like Florida loves northern police officers, especially from New England. I had a friend of mine who retired from a local police department, moved to Florida. A couple months later, he got a knock on the door. It was some captain of a sheriff's department. Somehow they found out he was living in the county. They wanted to know if he wanted to come to work for them.
That's cool.
Because they feel that New Englanders, northern police officers are very well trained. So
Well,
they try to
they
snap.
probably get a lot
Yeah.
more action than in a small town.
Well,
You know, and I'd tell you, if I was a police officer, when I got close to retirement, that's what I would want to do. I'd want to get myself a nice little cushy job somewhere. Matter of fact, I told the chief that one time when, in the beginning, when all this stuff was going crazy, I said, you know, chief, you should think about getting yourself a job on some little island somewhere, and the heck with all this crap.
Yeah.
But she wanted to stay in New London. How do you feel about the chief?
I've known Peg since she was the permittee at the Sandbar Lounge at Ocean Beach Park. When the city
Really?
when the city ran the Sandbar Lounge.
No
So,
shit.
yeah.
Whoops. Sorry about that, folks.
So,
Okay. All right. So I'm looking into this Edgerton School thing. Now, Dave Collins wrote an article, and I have to admit, there's times when I think they should put Dave Collins in a padded room somewhere. And then there's sometimes when he writes, and I just say, he must have had a genius moment. And I'm not saying this piece of work was genius, but I've read it a few times, and I'm looking for things that could either be stretched or not quite right, or something's not right about this or whatever. But everything I'm seeing in this article seems right. I mean, it doesn't seem like anything's fabricated. You know, we sold the school to Mr. Levine, and I've always heard about him being this great businessman, and maybe he is. But we sold the school to him, I don't know when, how far back did we sell him that school?
about 3, maybe 4 years.
And,
ago.
and he paid $350,000 for it.
Yep, selling price.
So, now, our mayor, for some reason, wants to buy it back from him for $350,000. But the property that we're going to get, if we buy it, is smaller than what we sold them.
That's correct.
So why would you pay the same price? It's like if somebody bought this table off me for $20, and then I wanted to buy it back, but a quarter of it was gone, why the heck would I pay $20?
You wouldn't.
Okay, so with that being said, now, if I'm not mistaken, the school is in foreclosure?
Yes, People's Bank is foreclosing on
Has he been
the
served?
property. I believe he has been served because one of our state marshals that does a lot of work for the tax collector, he also has the tax warrant on the property.
Okay,
And
so,
I'm sorry.
no,
what
I was going to say, because you brought up
I have to
a
agree with
really
the-
good point.
Well, I have to agree 100% with Councilor Nolan. Why would you pay $350,000 when he in turn spun off the basketball court and the parking lot on the side of the basketball court? He's owned, and for a lack of explaining it, it used to be a Sprint
Yeah,
store
the corner.
which faces
Corner of
Coleman
what?
Street, corner of Coleman and Cedar
Yeah,
Cedar
yeah.
Grove. That just sold to the company that owns O'Reilly Auto Parts for $420,000.
So
That's
Mr.
combined into
Levine
one.
sold off a piece of the property for $400 and something thousand.
Right, the basketball court, the parking lot, and the building that housed the old Sprint store for $420,000. But with People's Bank in the process of foreclosing, as I said at the council meeting, why don't we just wait and let the bank do all the work? Because, as I said at the council meeting, banks are not in the business of owning real
No.
estate. We had a couple of estimates on the asbestos removal.
Yeah, that
Because,
surprised me too. You're looking at,
Well, the school was built, I think, in 1962. It's a slab. There's no basement.
yeah.
It was quickly built. I've been in it many times when I was voting machine mechanic. I don't know how you turn it into a community center. You'd be better off just knocking the building down.
Well,
instead.
hang on a minute. That's probably some of the thinking going on. Good evening. You're on lot with me and Mike. Go ahead.
Evening, Dennis. Even Mike. You're touching on a lot of good topics, and one basically right now is this Edgerton school. Mike, I think it was more than 3-4 years ago. I think Levine took over the property going back when Rob Perro served on the council. So we're looking probably a good 10 years he's had that. But my question is, hearing you guys discuss this with foreclosure, and he was able to sell off parcels, why didn't the city have some type of lien if Collins' article is right as far as what he owes the city in back water, sewage, and taxes, preventing him from selling any of the parcels.
Well, there is
That's a
lien-
good
there-
point.
there
How the
is
hell
a-
did he get to sell that stuff?
Well, there is a lien on it for the uncollected real estate
Yeah, but
taxes.
if I tried to sell my house and there were liens against a contractor, I'd be prevented from the sale going through. Here, this guy's been able to sell off a portion, to hear you tonight, $420,000 on something he bought $350 for the entire piece, and he still owes the city money.
Yeah, what I'm looking at here, he owes the city at least $94,000,
Right,
which supposedly will be paid before the sale. Well, if he can afford this money to pay these taxes or whatever it's for now, why didn't he just pay it before we got to this
Well,
point?
why was he allowed to make the money he did on the portions he sold off and not even pay up to the city?
I don't know.
That could be
But-
between the bank and him, and
Right,
council's
I'm
not privy as to the negotiations that were going on. We got all the information in our
Right.
council package as to what was
I
going on.
just kind of got on
between-
this with you
planning
guys
and-
because this is what when I got to call in. What I really wanted to call and ask you, Mike, about was the fact that they're talking about a community center. We're in bad need of centralizing our municipal governments in one building, and unless something's changed that I'm not aware of, we are not currently ADA compliant in any of our buildings, especially the high school. And if we did take over Edgerton, instead of going a community center, is there any thought about making that piece of property, after demolishing the building, into a municipal center?
That hasn't been discussed. We're still working on grants to renovate City Hall and bring that up to ADA compliance. The only building, the Stanton building, I believe, is ADA compliant because it has the elevator.
Right, but I mean, the reason I'm on this topic, there seems to be such a hot issue this day with this impending storm coming to us that because of safety, homeowners have to shovel their sidewalks. The gentleman that was on Carl's show last night was so concerned about wheelchairs being on the sidewalk and people pushing strollers. But we're living in a city where if you got to go pay your taxes, we're not compliant. A kid has to be brought through the freight lift department of the high school because we're not ADA compliant with the high school. I'm not trying to put you on the hot seat, but I've been in the city for almost 15 years now, and I went back to council meetings where Rob Perot questioned the federal government funded us almost a little over $250,000 to be ADA compliant. That's well over 10 years ago, and he asked then, and he was the finance director or whatever you would call that title for his committee, and he was trying to find out accountability for the money then. We were given money to be ADA compliant, and it's like we didn't do anything with it.
Well, I can't speak for previous councils, but in 1969, when New London High opened up on Jefferson Avenue, it was in compliance, except the state of Connecticut doesn't grandfather their ADA requirements. I think we're one of 3 or 5 states that don't grandfather. Other states, they can build a high school in, let's say,
Yeah, but what they're
2000.
You guys have been
As-
great, and I'll end this on a
Go ahead.
on a positive note, Mike. You're very knowledgeable. Thank you for going into your second term as counselor. But I'm going to put you a little bit on the hot seat. Is there any down the future that you, with all your knowledge base of what you've served for this city, that you'd ever consider being our mayor down the road? And I'll pick up and listen to your response.
No, you.
Thanks, caller.
No, you can't pay me enough. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what you say now. That's what you say now. No, and I was wondering that too. You know, how, if the property's in foreclosure, how could he sell any of it unless he did it before it went into foreclosure?
There's a possibility. I don't know when it went on the land records, the notice of list pendants, and I don't know when the tax collector turned over the tax warrant to the state marshal.
Now, your idea about the foreclosure thing, it's very common sense. And I would think if the bank knew the city was interested in this property and wanted to get it after foreclosure, that would push the bank to proceed even faster. Because it seems like somebody here is dragging their butt. on this man. And you know, I was surprised to read that he got my mind's going crazy here. He got a $125,000 loan in 2006 for the new London Market on Washington Street. And that was the old telephone building.
No, that was the old United Electric building on Washington, on the backside of the Baptist church, next to the parking lot. Remember the Bank of America parking lot?
No.
Next to it, directly behind the Thames Club. Used to be the old United Electric
that building. Okay.
That's the
All right.
building.
But he also, well, what I'm getting at is, I didn't know our city gave out loans of this size.
That was a program, I believe, that went through development and planning. It was, I think it was a half a state and half a federal program.
So it wasn't any city money, the loan?
No, the city administered the program,
Oh, but
but
the
not,
money.
not city money.
Okay,
It
all
was
right.
state and federal.
Well, that's good to know. So it says here, he's $40,000 behind on payments. So that $40,000 wouldn't come to the city, or it would.
If he's able to sell the building, we would be looking for the loan.
But it's not our money.
Well, we administer the program, so we still have to collect the.
Oh, I can
outstanding
understand we
yeah.
have to collect it, but I mean, do we collect it and it goes in our coffer, or do we have to turn it back over to the state?
It depends on how that program was administered from the start.
So you're talking $40,000 there. He's also behind on tax payments for Edgerton property of $54,000.
And that triggered the demand for payment through the tax collector and the tax warrant to the state marshal.
But you see, people see this, I see this, and then I see in the paper when they, you see the list of all the houses they're gonna sell off tax sales. And some of these people are losing their houses for like $1,800 or $3,000. And here's a man, how does this man get to the point of where he owes $54,000? And he's still got a building.
It depends on what the tax bill is. I
Well,
don't know
what-
the exact bill for that property. So if somebody owes $3,000, say, or $3,400 on a tax bill, so say $1,500 a half.
Yeah, but the city's taking
But
people's houses for far less than $54,000.
I would say if you look at the tax sale list that the two state marshals run in the paper, by the time you actually have the sale, 98, 99% of those are paid off before they reach that point. In fact, I think
Well, they're
we
given-
only
they're
picked
given
up
a
2
chance.
properties,
Yeah, the Home Street and the,
Yeah.
that's another story in
but
itself.
the rest were paid off. Because basically, push come to shove, and you're going to lose the property. Are you really want to lose the property for $1,800? That all that you have put into it? And sometimes, every so often, you just see these same names and same properties back on the tax sale list.
Okay, in here, in this article, was saying that City Council Michael Tranquita, before City Council President Erica Richardson, shut down the discussion on a topic, moving a vote to send it to committee. Why did she shut down the discussion?
Well, there was a motion made by Councilor Marks to send it to committee.
While the discussion was going on?
Well, there were 3 of us that had our hands raised. Councilor Nolan was recognized, and then Councilor Marks, and then myself. I felt that my own opinion is I should have been able to finish my line of questioning to Ned Hammond, even though there was a motion on the floor, because the motion should have just been held until I finished my questioning, because basically we had our hands raised at the same time, because I'm on the far side,
Yeah,
so I can see it.
That's the way it normally works.
Well, mayor's prerogative. We're going to have a committee meeting and a public hearing, so I'll be asking this
When
more
is
than
that?
the same questions
On
again.
the Edgerton School
Yes.
thing? When is that going to be?
We haven't set a date yet on that.
Ah, boy.
But I think after Tuesday night's council meeting, development and planning basically got a good earful as to the council has a lot of questions over this.
It seems to me like some of the people in our government, planning and development, even planning and zoning, some of these people seem to be going out and doing things, and the council's not aware of what they're doing, the people aren't aware of what they're doing, and they're doing all this stuff. And to me, that doesn't seem right, especially planning and zoning. I mean, planning and zoning is going out there and granting all these different things. Somebody comes in and wants to build this or buy this. They look it over, yeah, okay, and then they go and get, and the people don't even know until they see a new building up.
Well, everything
And the council,
goes to
from what I
council.
understand, now from what I understand or what I was told, maybe somebody told me wrong, is that the council has no control over what planning and zoning does. That's something to do with the state.
Well, planning and zoning has to follow their own procedures and what the state lays down for planning and zoning agencies. Anytime they want to make a change to the zoning laws or planning, they have to go back to council
So
for
if,
it. But
so when I
council's
was,
never in the business of micromanaging
I know
planning
that,
and zoning
I
and
know that.
development and planning.
But I mean, sometimes it seems to me like you're not even made aware of what they're doing. Like, for instance, the St. Mary's School, that being turned over to a company that is going to put apartments in there and put whoever in there, like supposedly helping people to live there. Now, some of you guys had no idea that was even going on.
Well, I believe the St. Mary's School property was also zoned for apartments, even though the school was there. That whole section of J Street was zoned
Okay.
for multi-use.
Now, I'm gonna read in a minute here a comment on this article somebody wrote, and I thought it was a pretty good comment. But why would we want to take, not that we're getting any taxes for it anyways, but why would we want to take another property off the tax roll? We're not that wealthy.
Well, you're talking about Edgerton School.
Yeah.
Well, it would stay on the tax rolls even if the bank forecloses.
But if we buy it, it's not on the tax
It will
roll.
be off the tax roll again.
Yeah.
Well, for decades, it was never on the tax roll as a
And
school.
and decades ago, we were in a whole different position than we are now.
That's true.
We're in a position now, you know as well as I do, that a lot of people's backs are against the wall. And the more and more we spend money and not look at how much we actually got coming in and spend it in hopes that we'll get some of it back, that doesn't always work out.
Well,
You think we would be a little more cautious of what we're doing.
yes, you would. You are going to be cautious because you
No,
don't.
we don't.
Especially with the school property. Let's just say that the bank goes all the way through and forecloses on the property. They become the owner, so the tax bill goes to them.
Yeah, but then if we end up buying it,
Then it again,
we
is
would probably
moved
just
off
let
the-
that, we would probably just say, well,
off the
don't worry
roll.
about that money.
Well,
We
no,
like to
we
do
would
that,
be
too.
we would be going after the bank, and the bank wants the property free and clear because they're not going to be able to market it with liens on it. So the bank will catch up on the payments or the back taxes.
Yeah, but the bank could also say, if you want this property, you gotta forget what we owe on it. And we done it, we did it with Lighthouse Inn.
Well, no, Lighthouse Inn is nothing has changed with Lighthouse Inn.
Well, yeah, but if
Because
it
we're
goes
still
through, if we go
talking
through with
with
it,
two
then the
developers.
water bill and all that stuff
Well-
is gonna be forgiven.
Well, it depends on when they are able to get to that point in negotiations. We're
Okay,
not
there
privy
was,
to that.
Where was it I saw this? Because there was a statement in here about that, okay. Back taxes and loan payments would be made before the school sale proposed by the mayor goes through. And another thing I want to bring up in a second, according to the terms of the sale, but a $17,000 judgment lien the city obtained for code violations would be forgiven. So that's telling me that he owes us another $17,000, which we're going to say, don't worry about it.
But I don't know where those code violations come into play, because is it code violations for Edgerton School or code violations for the old
Does it
United
matter?
Electric?
Oh, no.
If we put the violations against the school, well, and we take it back, then naturally we're not going to collect on ourselves. Is the code violations part of the old United Electric building? I don't know, because it didn't state that. When I read that in the story, it didn't specify where the violations are.
Now, can you as a counselor negotiate a deal with somebody by yourself without informing the rest of the council what you're doing? And then come forward and say, hey, I got this great deal.
Well, a counselor should not be negotiating. It should
Because
be
in here, it says that Mike was negotiating before he became mayor. He was in negotiations with this.
I read that.
So is that kosher?
I don't know. Maybe he talked to outgoing Mayor Finizio. I don't know. I'm only reading what was in the paper also.
Yeah. Crazy. We shouldn't, this is the last thing I imagined was going to be happening this soon into the whole new mayor thing. But I'm still hoping it works out. I don't know. I don't know.
It's only been a few months.
Yeah, I know, and already it's like the crap's hitting the. What's I noticed some of the councilors. I guess we'll get off this. We only got like 5 minutes, and anyway, okay. Is there anything that's in the second go around, or even bringing over from the first go around for you, that's really important to you, that you're really passionate, that you want to see done?
Well, I'd like to see some more movement on Fort Trumbull and Parcel J.
Yeah, that was kind
Bank and
of a
Holland.
wicked setback, huh?
Well, I thought maybe Parcel J would be moving along. Fort Trumbull, it's difficult, but my opinion is I don't think the economy has perked up.
No, it hasn't. Don't listen to those crazy Democrats who say it has.
I'm a Democrat. But it's just, we're competing, and I've said it in the past, we're competing with every city and town in the USA for development. And it doesn't help with our tax structure in Connecticut.
Well, our tax structure in our city.
Well,
I mean, you got to admit, we got some high taxes.
but when you look at the mill rate compared to municipalities surrounding New London, there are a number of municipalities that have a higher mill rate.
Like who?
Legend.
They're higher than 39 point something?
I believe so. If you look at Groton, between the Groton town and Groton City, and you start adding your fire district taxes in there, they're higher.
I'll have to look into that. So this gentleman that owns the building, or he owns a business in the building on a J, partial J, right? You know what I'm talking about with it. That big building. He's talking now about.
Shores Cove 5.
Yeah, now he's talking about he wants to buy the parking lot. What's that all about?
That was where we allowed them to expand the parking lot.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because I believe that's fully rented, that building. That also has the parking underneath.
I think the second level is empty.
Okay.
I think, but anyways, so what's that owner want to do? Because I didn't quite understand.
Well, I think, if I remember correctly, at the end of the last council session, 2-year term, they allowed them to expand the parking lot, but we still own a portion of it. And I believe they're looking to purchase it outright.
He's not looking to put anything up on Partial J?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, yeah, I see,
It's
I
just
wasn't
the
sure
parking
about
lot.
that. What would you like to see go into Fort Trumbull? We only got 2 minutes, I don't even know if you can answer that.
Condominiums and no apartments.
You really think there's a market for condominiums?
Yes.
I mean, we have 2 places right down by there, Harbor Towers and, what's the other one there? A little further down, but anyways, I can't think of the
The
name.
one where
of
the
it.
old Snyder's Hardware
Yeah,
was.
I can't think of the name of it offhand. But, and they're not fully rented, fully sold.
But it's,
And then you got Sylvester, who's doing the city flats things, which
Doing
I
a
think
very
is
good
kind of a
job
good
on
thing.
that.
I think that's kind of good. The man has some really good ideas, I have to admit, him and Frank. And they have a great idea for Fort Trumbull, but they don't ever talk about it anymore, and nobody really knows that much about it. And that's another whole show. But I would like to see, and I don't know if it's even possible, but a business, some kind of business come in there that's gonna hire 50 or 100 people within the city to work, a factory or something. To me, it seems like a prime spot.
if you could get someone with light manufacturing, but it's, when you look at it where it sits, and if you were doing manufacturing, you're still away from the highway.
Not that far.
Well,
And then you
it's
have the
going-
possibility of a train stopping there, a freight train, and then you have the water, barges. I don't know, it just seems to me like it, and I wonder sometimes if the city even goes out in that direction when they're trying to sell that piece of property. Do they go out to big businesses? Oh, we're going off. Mike, I want to thank you a lot for
We're
coming
out
in.
of time.
Yeah, I know, I knew it was gonna happen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, and I hope you come back again down the road, and